Section 30, Vespasian, Part 1, of the Lives of the 12 Caesars, by Gaius Suetonius Tranquillus. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Icy Jumbo. The Lives of the 12 Caesars, by Gaius Suetonius Tranquillus, translated by Alexander Thompson and edited by T. Forrester. Vespasian, Part 1, paragraphs 1 to 7. The empire, which had long been thrown into a disturbed and unsettled state by the rebellion and violent death of its last 3 rulers, was at length restored to peace and security by the Flavian family, whose descent was indeed obscure, and which boasted no ancestral honours. But the public had no cause to regret its elevation, though it is acknowledged that Domitian met with the just reward of his avarice and cruelty. Titus Flavius Petro, a townsman of Reate, whether a centurion or an evocatus of Pompey's party in the civil war is uncertain, fled out of the battle of Pharsalia and went home, where, having at last obtained his pardon and discharge, he became a collector of the money raised by public sales in the way of auction. His son, surnamed Sabinus, was never engaged in the military service, though some say he was a centurion of the first order, and others that whilst he held that rank he was discharged on account of his bad state of health. This Sabinus, I say, was a publican, and received the tax of the 40th penny in Asia. And there were remaining, at the time of the advancement of the family, several statues which had been erected to him by the cities of that province, with this inscription, "To the honest tax farmer." He afterwards turned usurer amongst the Helvetii, and there died, leaving behind him his wife, Vespasia Polla, and 2 sons by her, the elder of whom, Sabinus, came to be prefect of the city, and the younger, Vespasian, to be emperor. Polla, descended of a good family, at Nursia, had for her father Vespasius Pollio, thrice appointed military tribune, and at last prefect of the camp, and her brother was a senator of praetorian dignity. There is to this day, about 6 miles from Nursia, on the road to Spoletum, a place on the summit of a hill called Vespasii, where are several monuments of the Vespasii, a sufficient proof of the splendour and antiquity of the family. I will not deny that some have pretended to say that Petro's father was a native of Gallia Transpadana, whose employment was to hire workpeople who used to emigrate every year from the country of the Umbria into that of the Sabines, to assist them in their husbandry, but who settled at last in the town of Reate, and there married. But of this I have not been able to discover the least proof upon the strictest inquiry. Vespasian was born in the country of the Sabines, beyond Reate, in a little country seat called Phalacrine, upon the 5th of the calends of December, 27th of November, in the evening, in the consulship of Quintus Sulpicius Camerinus and Caius Poppaeus Sabinus, 5 years before the death of Augustus, and was educated under the care of Tertulla, his grandmother by the father's side, upon an estate belonging to the family at Cosa. After his advancement to the empire, he used frequently to visit the place where he had spent his infancy, and the villa was continued in the same condition, that he might see everything about him just as he had been used to do. And he had so great a regard for the memory of his grandmother that, upon solemn occasions and festival days, he constantly drank out of a silver cup which she had been accustomed to use. After assuming the manly habit, he had a long time a distaste for the senatorian toga, though his brother had obtained it, nor could he be persuaded by any one but his mother to sue for that badge of honour. She at length drove him to it, more by taunts and reproaches than by her entreaties and authority, calling him now and then, by way of reproach, his brother's footman. He served as military tribune in Thrace. When made quaestor, the province of Crete and Cyrene fell to him by lot. He was candidate for the aedileship, and soon after for the praetorship, but met with a repulse in the former case, though at last, with much difficulty, he came in 6th on the poll books. But the office of praetor he carried upon his first canvass, standing amongst the highest at the poll. being incensed against the Senate, and desirous to gain, by all possible means, the good graces of Caius, he obtained leave to exhibit extraordinary games for the emperor's victory in Germany, and advised them to increase the punishment of the conspirators against his life by exposing their corpses unburied. He likewise gave him thanks in that august assembly for the honour of being admitted to his table. Meanwhile he married Flavia Domitilla, who had formerly been the mistress of Statilius Capella, a Roman knight of Sabrata in Africa, who, Domitilla, enjoyed Latin rights, and was soon after declared fully and freely a citizen of Rome on a trial before the Court of Recovery brought by her father Flavius Liberalis, a native of Ferentum, but no more than secretary to a quaestor. By her he had the following children: Titus, Domitian, and Domitilla. He outlived his wife and daughter, and lost them both before he became emperor. After the death of his wife, he renewed his union with his former concubine Caenis, the freedwoman of Antonia, and also her amanuensis, and treated her, even after he was emperor, almost as if she had been his lawful wife. In the reign of Claudius, by the interest of Narcissus, he was sent to Germany in command of a legion, whence being removed into Britain, he engaged the enemy in 30 several battles. He reduced under subjection to the Romans 2 very powerful tribes, and above 20 great towns, with the Isle of Wight, which lies close to the coast of Britain, partly under the command of Aulus Plautius, the consular lieutenant, and partly under Claudius himself. For this success he received the triumphal ornaments, and in a short time after 2 priesthoods, besides the consulship, which he held during the last 2 months of the year. The interval between that and his proconsulship he spent in leisure and retirement, for fear of Agrippina, who still held great sway over her son, and hated all the friends of Narcissus, who was then dead. Afterwards he got by lot the province of Africa, which he governed with great reputation, excepting that once, in an insurrection at Adrumetum, he was pelted with turnips. It is certain that he returned thence nothing richer, for his credit was so low that he was obliged to mortgage his whole property to his brother, and was reduced to the necessity of dealing in mules for the support of his rank, for which reason he was commonly called the muleteer. He is said likewise to have been convicted of extorting from a young man of fashion 200,000 sesterces for procuring him the broad stripe, contrary to the wishes of his father, and was severely reprimanded for it. While in attendance upon Nero in Achaia, he frequently withdrew from the theatre while Nero was singing, and went to sleep if he remained, which gave so much offence that he was not only excluded from his society, but debarred the liberty of saluting him in public. Upon this he retired to a small out-of-the-way town, where he lay skulking in constant fear of his life, until a province, with an army, was offered him. A firm persuasion had long prevailed through all the East that it was fated for the empire of the world, at that time, to devolve on some who should go forth from Judea. This prediction referred to a Roman emperor, as the event showed, but the Jews, applying it to themselves, broke out into rebellion, and having defeated and slain their governor, routed the lieutenant of Syria, a man of consular rank, who was advancing to his assistance, and took an eagle, the standard of one of his legions. As the suppression of this revolt appeared to require a stronger force and an active general who might safely be trusted in an affair of so much importance, Vespasian was chosen in preference to all others, both for his known activity and on account of the obscurity of his origin and name, being a person of whom there could not be the least jealousy. 2 legions, therefore, 8 squadrons of horse, and 10 cohorts, being added to the former troops in Judea, and taking with him his eldest son as lieutenant, as soon as he arrived in his province, he turned the eyes of the neighbouring provinces upon him, by reforming immediately the discipline of the camp, and engaging the enemy once or twice with such resolution, that, in the attack of a castle, he had his knee hurt by the stroke of a stone, and received several arrows in his shield. After the deaths of Nero and Galba, whilst Otho and Vitellius were contending for the sovereignty, he entertained